Do I look okay?
Okay, so first of all, thank you for agreeing to do this.
No
But I
problem.
tell all the people who are entering this project, it's called the Ignite Project. We want to ignite a spark by listening to the stories of those in our own community. And I was brought here to listen to those stories and then to share them within the community itself. So, thank you for agreeing to do this, and I'm so curious about your story. So tell me about like where did you grow up and what were your Jewish experiences and all those good things.
I grew up in New York. I grew up.
Tell us your name.
My name is Serena.
What's your last name?
Currently, or my maiden name?
Whatever.
Serena Edelstein is my married name.
And what was your maiden name?
Frankel.
Okay.
And strangely, my German maiden name is the Jewish name, and the Jewish-sounding married name is Catholic, because I'm married to a Catholic.
Okay. Good. Cool.
Yeah.
We get to hear all about that.
So,
so you grew up in New York.
I grew up in New York. When I was 6 years old, we moved to Great Neck, which is a suburb on Long Island, a very, very Jewish suburb.
Now, what do you mean by very, very Jewish?
Very Jewish. Like, where the majority in today's society, especially here in Sydney, the majority of the people are Christian. The majority of the people in Great Neck are Jewish.
Yeah.
And even more so now. Now it's Iranian and Korean. But when I was growing up, it was there's like 5 synagogues in my town.
And I know many of the clergy there because I was in New York for 50 years.
Rabbi Davidson was the rabbi when I was growing up. His son is now, I think he's the head rabbi of the Reform Synagogue in Manhattan. He was in the New York Times. He was the youngest one ever,
Wow.
Josh. So yeah, I grew up.
Any good stories of the synagogue, of your life, your family life in Great Neck? What was it? You have brothers and sisters?
I have one brother, strangely also married to a Catholic.
What about your parents? Where'd they come from?
My dad was born in New York. My mom was born in New York. My dad lived in Washington Heights.
German Jew?
No, his mother, Serena also, was born in America. His father was born in a little town called Yazlovitz, which then was Russia, White Russia, and now it's Poland, Austria, somewhere in there. And my mother's mother, also born in America, and my mother's father, born in also White Russia area. I'm not sure of the town. Both of my parents were born in America. My great-grandmother I knew, she grew up, she was from Austria, Vienna maybe? I'm not sure exactly where, but Austria.
Nice. So what was it like growing up in Great Neck? Jewish, with very, 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 very Jewish people around you.
See, when I say it, it makes sense. When you say it, it didn't sound right.
Well, don't listen to me. Listen to yourself.
I didn't mean overly religious. I meant huge
Popular.
Jewish population.
Well,
Like
I mean,
everybody was Jewish.
So if you're in a place where there's like 90+% Jewish, so you didn't have to hide the fact that you're Jewish.
Yeah.
Did you celebrate it?
Yeah, as much as I think what was nice about growing up there is that it didn't have to be something that you have to go out of your way to celebrate. It just that's the way it is. Which
Did you do Jewish things like as a kid?
I do remember going to, and it wasn't all the time, but I do remember going to my grandparents' place in the Bronx and with the stereotypical plastic on the couch. And having some Friday night seders. I do remember that being very young. and my great-grandmother and my grandmother making the ragalach and the chicken soup with the homemade noodles. But we didn't always, we never kept kosher. But we had our traditions.
Yeah, like what do you remember? Any good stories about any of those times? Did you go to Hebrew school?
I went to Hebrew. I was given the choice. Do you want to go to Hebrew school? No. Do you want to go to Hebrew school? No. Do you want to go to Hebrew school? Yeah. And once I said yes, I had to stick with it. And then I did my bat mitzvah. And then in New York, they have, after bat mitzvah, they have confirmation, which here isn't really a thing. And then after that, what was cool in my synagogue is that all the seniors, like 11th and 12th graders, it was sex and drugs in the Bible. So it was just like this rap session in the rabbi's office, and we would meet there and we would talk about all the stuff that teenagers want to talk about. And I guess it was a way of keeping some connection to the synagogue. And so the rabbi, and we'd all sit on his floor, and we'd be in there, and we'd be talking about the stuff that teenagers want to be talking about,
Nice.
like all the not necessarily pious, holy things, because there's it's a good story. So I remember that. And
That's
I
interesting. You
remember
said it's a good story.
it is
You
a
mean
good.
it's- you mean
I
it's-
mean, it's pretty juicy.
In other words,
The Bible. There's
Oh.
a lot of stuff in there that's not necessarily, when you really look at it and read it and analyze it, it's full of intrigue and who begat who, and
yeah,
there's all
yeah,
this stuff in there
relationships and-
that isn't, you know, there was promiscuity and like all that stuff that teenagers want to talk about, rather than, you know, everybody should do the right thing, and
right.
there's everything, and
You talked about the subjects that most people would not talk about.
or that most people don't think is necessarily holy and pious.
Right.
That all the nether parts of the dark parts, the
Well, how
the
wonderful that
saucy
you
parts.
felt safe enough with the rabbi to try to talk about it. He must have been a cool guy
Yeah. Until
until something happened.
you might want to edit this out. Until he got a little bit hypocritical, because he used to talk
True.
in the. Yeah, you might want to edit
That's
this.
fine.
But
I will.
But
I will.
but
I will.
I'll tell you. He during the sermons, you know, very large synagogue, and he used to talk about, which was fantastic, embracing everybody in the community and accepting outsiders into the community, to the congregation. And then when I went with my Catholic fiance, he wouldn't marry us. He said, the only way I'll marry you is if, without your husband converting, is if he tells me that he cannot convert because it would kill destroy his parents, then I'll marry you. So I just found, well, my whole family, we found that a little bit hypocritical when he's talking about accepting everybody. And we've gone through Hebrew school, and in school and at home and at the synagogue, we were raised to think for ourselves. Just because I'm marrying somebody doesn't mean I'm going to lose my own identity. So what difference does it make if I marry a Christian or a Hindu or anybody? I'm still me, and doesn't matter. So anyway.
That's actually a really, I get sense it was or is a sensitive subject, because, you know, you have faith in an institution, in an
Well,
individual,
and I did
and then
for,
eventually,
I don't think it was my bat mitzvah. I think it was confirmation. I don't remember my speech, but I remember vaguely talking about. I remember talking about this hypothetical of marrying outside the faith, and then I ended up marrying outside the faith, and I remember hearing a story when I was young that my mom dated somebody who wasn't Jewish and her parents at Shiva. But then when I was going to marry this Catholic man, neither of my parents cared. They were concerned that I would lose my Jewish identity, which I haven't. But they said, we'd rather know that you're happy and taken care of and treated well by somebody. And that's how I was raised, to be a strong, independent, think for myself, and do what's right for me. We don't have to believe the same thing. Ultimately, really, we do believe the same thing, because just New Testament takes off from where the Old Testament ends, and there's one God, and as long as we're good people, it doesn't matter.
Right.
So
I'm one of those people that believe that it's such a personal religion is such a personal, and relationship to God is such a personal piece. Who am I to judge what is right and wrong for another
that's
person?
right. And with my son doing his bar mitzvah now, and my daughter is here for what we would call Hebrew school in America, my son is more on the religious path than my daughter. She doesn't really, she's take it or leave it at the moment. And I said, well, that's fine, but through primary school, I need you to have an education, because in such a Christian society or a Christian world these days, there's so many negative stereotypes. You can believe what you want to believe, but I want you to know that the truth of the religion is completely polarly opposite from the stereotype. And as long as you know that, you're not going to be sucked into believing what everybody says when they have no idea what they're talking about.
See, that's interesting. What a wonderful thing for a parent to offer a child. The interest of being able to give the child permission to explore on their own, to come up with their own answers, in the hope that they're not swayed by what's around them, but rather they can experience it for themselves and know
That's
it to
right.
be true. And once you give children that sense in the world that they actually have their own guidance system and can make those choices.
And you still instill the values and the morality of what's right and wrong and what's good versus bad, and that just because 90% of the population says this is, or Judaism is this way, you can know, well, okay, you say whatever you want, but that's not really how it is.
Yeah.
So she may not want to have a particularly religious life, and that's fine.
Yeah.
As long as she knows what the truth is.
Right.
She doesn't have to follow it.
Right.
As long as she doesn't then think all the negative stereotypes. She can know the truth. And the Friday night service here at this Emanuel Synagogue, not Temple Emanuel, is a really beautiful service that I quite enjoy now. And the messages, it's a quick service, it's a good service. My husband's coming tonight because I think it's important that he come to at least one before the bar mitzvah weekend so that he kind of knows what to expect. But it's really important, and it's a beautiful service, and there's so many messages if you pay attention to the readings rather than just do the perfunctory, okay, I'll sit here, I'll stand up when they tell me. I think it's a great service. It's musical, it's fun, but it's quick, and the messages are there. That don't listen to what everybody out there is saying, because that's not really what Judaism is about. So I really enjoy. I enjoy the Friday.
You can find that here.
I really enjoy the Friday service. Saturday one's a bit long.
3 hours.
Yeah, it's a bit, but I like the Friday night service.
What do you like? What do you like about the community? About this community?
The synagogue
You've been in
community.
Sydney now for how
I've
many
been in
years?
Sydney for almost 20 years.
And joining the community here, last 5-10 years?
No, when my son was really small, I've been in Australia, I should say, not Sydney. I've been in Australia for nearly 20 years. When my son was really little, there was a program that they're still doing called Shabbat Tot, and we came and we made craft, and there were a few services, and it was fun. And then life got busy. We don't live in Woollahra, but this being a Reform synagogue, this was the one to come to, and life just got busy, and we didn't come. And then Oliver, of his own volition, decided he wanted to do his bar mitzvah. So I had to, and we had to look into it, and we had to join the temple, and everything that entails. And
what can you tell me about the life of a Jew in Australia?
I'm one of those people that it's not that different.
The United States.
The culture isn't that different. Or the culture, not like the arts culture, but it's not that different here.
Okay.
Obviously in my town there's a lot greater Jewish population, and New York, New York's a melting pot. I've never felt I had to hide my identity, but it's not something I flaunt either. But I wouldn't flaunt it anywhere. I can be. I think, therefore I am. I don't need to. So I can't. I don't even know how to answer what's it like being a Jew in Australia. I don't know how to answer that. It's
never even entered your mind.
No.
Yeah. No, I get it. I get exactly what you're saying. Who were the mentors in your life? And what were the things that, some of the people that sort of shaped you, the ones that invested in you?
Oh, definitely my parents.
Can you tell me a little bit about how you describe them as parents and as mentors, and which way did they shape you?
This is where I'm going to sound old and wise now, because
that's good.
I now have children, so I appreciate what little jerks children can be, and what little jerk I was. But now with hindsight, I can appreciate the opportunities that my parents, and I think that comes not only with age, but with having my own children. I was raised to think for myself. I had a very strong mother, very smart mother. She was. Both of my parents were great. I was raised to think for myself, to stand up for myself, to be strong, to be a feminist without being a feminist, and a strong sense, I think, of what's right and what's wrong, and what's just and what's unjust.
How wonderful.
Valuing animal, like everything.
Any stories that are quintessentially your mom?
Not really. My mom was a psychotherapist, and she cared about her family, but she cared about her clients. She cared about animals.
Sounds like she cared.
Yeah, she cared. Maybe the greatest summation of my mother is she liked to empower people to do for themselves. Later in life, once my mother found an organization called Heifer International, that became...
She founded that?
No, she didn't. Once she found it, not founded.
Oh. I've heard of that. That's the whole idea of empowering others by giving them...
You give a village a goat so that they can milk the goat and they can breed the goat with other goats and
We'll have more
to
goats.
sustain the village rather than just giving them a handout.
Giving them the goat
Giving
milk,
them
the
something
goat.
so they can provide for themselves rather than just a handout. Empowerment.
And how did she empower you? What were the ways that...
Education, belief, support.
How wonderful. Supportive, empowering mother who wanted your voice to be championed. How
Yep.
lovely.
Yep. So I try to do the same for my children.
I think you have.
Sometimes I want to.
You actually have, because that's where he stands.
And like I said to you that other day, I'm so grateful that he's like that out in the world. Where at home he can be a little jerk.
Are you a little jerk at home?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I couldn't believe you're a little jerk.
See, I'm being honest with the interview.
So
Very nice.
he's a cinematographer now.
I like it. He's making sure you get your best shot. I like that. He's
Just
got your back.
like focus
Okay.
in on the face.
So tell me what happened. So you grew up in Great Neck, and
Yeah.
then what happened?
I went to college in Washington, D.C. and had a double, nearly triple degree. And then
In what?
A psych major and a drama major. And then I bailed on the triple in French lit. I have a minor in French literature. And when I finished college, I moved to London, where I lived on and off for 2 years. Didn't really ever do anything with that psych degree. I was pursuing an acting career and
What type of acting?
whatever they pay me to do.
Did you do acting there?
No, I didn't end up doing. I did some little things in London.
Oh, nice.
And I did a little bit in New York, but never really
Took to Broadway.
not enough to support myself. But
That was your love.
that's
Or
what
still
I
is?
love to do, and traveling. And I think I love to travel, not like a holiday, not like a vacation. Like, don't get me wrong, it's very nice to sit by a pool and enjoy yourself and just have fun. But I like to explore other cultures, other religions, old cities. I've been to, this is perfect in a interview for you, a religious figure. We went to Israel, and there were other Jews in that group that we were with that couldn't understand why I would care about doing the Stations of the Cross.
Let's go outside, because I'm going to get a little...
Exact same thing next week.
Yeah, good.
But when 9/11 happened, I felt, as an American Jew living in Christian Sydney, I felt very strongly on the day of 9/11, like not that night, but the next day I went to work because, damn it, I'm from New York and you're not going to break me, so I went to work. But when I came home, I saw graffiti on a bus shelter that said, "Muslim equals evil." I got off the bus and I went to the police station and I kicked up a stink and I said, that needs to be cleaned because that's not true. And I feel very strongly that just because you're not the same religion as somebody, and just because there's some extremist whack jobs in every religion, it doesn't make you a bad person. And it doesn't make, because you believe that doesn't make you better than me, and because I believe what I believe doesn't make me better than you. We're all in this together. So anyway.
That was great. That was great. See, I have more to listen. And
because of the way I was raised, to think and not just roll over and do what people tell me. I have to think for myself. That's why I can marry out of my faith, because I can still be true to myself, because I'm not less of who I am because I've married somebody else. And my husband respects me for that. He can go do his thing and I can do my own thing, and and we can overlap. And my kids gets the best of both worlds. They have Jewish side on my side, and they have Christmas with and Easter with the chocolate bunny, and
yes, and yes. No,
yeah.
I
And we
that.
have a tree in my house, but I don't go so far as to call it a Hanukkah bush.
Right.
But it's a winter tree. It's a dead tree with snow on it, and all of the decorations on it are all icicles and snowmen, and it's at that time, and their dad is Catholic, so there's some Christmas presents. But we light the Hanukkah candles, and they don't have to fast yet, but we do Rosh Hashanah, and my husband eats the brisket, and we have the matzah, and we do it all. And they know about, we have Hindu friends, so they know about Diwali, and we have Muslim friends, and more power to them.
Yeah.
More power to know that nobody's better than anybody else. You believe what you believe, and you hold fast to that, and your identity is your own, and it doesn't have to be quashed by anybody else. There you go. There's your little juicy tidbit. So, your sound bite, as it were. Hebrew school that I went to, I think it was the year of confirmation, we actually studied in the Reformed Temple, Temple Bethel. We studied the Reformation, Martin Luther. We studied all religions at Hebrew school, because it's important.
So it wasn't just Jewish history.
No, it wasn't biased. This is
Context of
it's all stemmed from one place, but it branched, and
Right.
nobody's that different than anybody else. And that's why it's important that people learn about it all,
Right.
not just their own.
Right.